Hello my friends on the internet, Bandit here. Welcome back to a Zelda video that's not a reaction or lore of the bosses video. I know, you probably didn't think that happens on this channel anymore. Well, I assure you, it does. Especially since we just had a brand new, original, non-remake or remastered Zelda game released to us that contained some pretty major lore drops. Like, as in some of the biggest and most world-altering lore that we've seen in the series since Skyward Sword. And frankly, it's got me so excited about what it could mean for the franchise that I just had to make a video introducing some of this new lore and discussing theories regarding its true nature, so that I can then in turn use this video as the new lore foundation for the new theories going forward. And in case you somehow missed it, we were just blessed with not only a new Zelda game, but the first official Legend of Zelda title in the series known as Echoes of Wisdom that features the main playable character of Princess Zelda herself, not Link. But don't worry, he's still around. Oh, and if you haven't seen or played the game yet, consider this your spoiler warning for the video. Now, before you ask, of all the lore present in the game, one thing we don't have to guess about is whether or not the game takes place on the timeline, or where it would theoretically be located. Nintendo actually straight up just went live with its official placement. It's right here, in the Downfall timeline, in between Triforce Heroes and the original Legend of Zelda, and that's that. That's the word of God after all. I guess they haven't completely abandoned the timeline. Still though, it would be nice if we were to get a similar answer for the Wild Era games, but anyway, in a nutshell, Echoes of Wisdom gave us new in-universe information on not only the newly unveiled reality-tearing rifts that can pop up around the place, but also a new kind of fairy species tasked with repairing and closing these rifts known as the Tri-Fairies, or just Tris for short. These little bell-looking Tris come directly from the goddesses themselves, as in those goddesses, the golden goddesses who made everything. And they each possess the ability to make echoes out of objects or even living things, which is an ability Zelda's Tri gives to her by letting her use a legendary relic known as the Tri-Rod. In contrast, these rifts, on the other hand, also have a creator, the identity of which is by far the most intriguing new lore drop in the game, as well as the main focus of this video, and that would be a creature, or more accurately, a formless entity that is both all-powerful and the complete opposite of everything the Golden Goddesses stand for. Its name is Null. Where the Golden Goddesses have the ultimate power to create, Null has the ultimate power to erase. This is why entering Null's rifts that appear across Hyrule in the game leads to a realm called the Still World, where you can literally witness everything that was pulled from reality slowly dripping away into goopy black nothingness. It's actually quite disturbing the more you think about it, especially when you find people in these Still Worlds. The rifts are also seemingly all-powerful as well, since it's possible they've even trapped the Golden Goddesses themselves, or at least their essences, inside the Still Worlds. And no, I did not stutter. Null also suspiciously has the power to create echoes just like the Tris do, although we'll get back to talking about this a bit later. You might be wondering to yourself right about now, this Null thing seems awfully powerful, but it doesn't pop up until honestly way later in the timeline, without a single reference to its existence or rifts anywhere previously. Why haven't we seen evidence of Null before this point in the series? And that would be because, simply put, Null itself has been trapped by the Golden Goddesses since the beginning of creation. How, you ask? Inside creation itself. Yeah, so basically the goddesses pretty much more or less made, the sun, the moon, the stars, the sky above, and the planet below, everything as a literal trap for Null, who apparently just wanted for all of existence to be no existence, for everything to be null, void, chaos. The Golden Goddesses decided that wasn't very cool, and that was that. And whenever Null, who has been under the surface of Hyrule this entire time, would make a rift in order to suck things back into a state of chaos, the goddesses would unleash the Tris to close said rifts, which was apparently working just fine until apparently recently when Null purposed in its heart, if it has one, to obtain a relic that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom seemingly forgot about, called the Triforce. Only in Echoes of Wisdom it's oddly called the Prime Energy, which implies what we already know, that the Triforce was created at the same time the universe was created, upon the goddesses leaving the world they had made. Null decided this all-powerful relic would give it the boost of power it needed to successfully turn everything, possibly including the goddesses themselves that it somehow might have been able to capture, into the void. Apparently, Null also came across the knowledge of a legend that stated a priestess and hero would rise to stop the Void God's plans eventually, which in turn resulted in Null creating new rifts targeting children that would fit the priestess and hero description that were were not able to be closed by the Tri-Fairies on account of the whole no goddesses, Tri-Fairies being captured thing. And you know, I just have to say, that does kinda sound familiar, but more on that a bit later. One of these rifts does successfully capture the Link of Echoes of Wisdom, but he's able to escape all on his own. Of course, said priestess of legend, who turned out to be a princess named Zelda, has something to say about all this, teams up with a Tri, and the rest is history. Null's plan, which is almost successful, is thwarted at the very end, where we the players are given our first actual glimpse at not only the body of Null, which is massive, but Null's face and consciousness, which turns out looks a lot like a Tri-Fairy, which is very peculiar. And if you'll recall, one of the first things that we know Null can do, even before knowing anything about Null's ability to create rifts, is that Null can create echoes, which again is a Tri-Fairy ability. I would say there does exist a train of logic that could be followed, leading to the solution being that Null is itself a corrupted Tri-Fairy, but on the other hand, it should also be noted that at the point that we get to see Null's Tri-appearance, Null has touched and subsequently been infused with the Triforce, specifically the Triforce of Power, following its split. And since the Triforce is a goddess relic and the Tri-Fairies are goddess fairies, it's also possible that Null's Tri-appearance, if you will, is simply because at this point, Null is infused directly with the power of the goddesses. In a nutshell, I think it's most probable that Null gained the ability to create echoes after capturing the Tri-Fairies in the rifts, and essentially stealing away their ability. Now, how Null was able to obtain a Ganon echo, or a Volvagia echo for that matter, is currently a mystery, and one that we can delve into later if you would like, since I do actually have a few thoughts on it. However, now that we know officially where Echoes of Wisdom takes place on the timeline, and realizing that it's actually a pretty futuristic game, all things considered, we are left to theorize about several different aspects regarding Null's influence, yet complete non-appearance throughout the entire franchise up until this point. Where has Null been this whole time? Why haven't we seen rifts before? Is Null connected to the other evil beings such as Demise or Ganon? What's the story there? Etc, etc. So to kick off the new age of Zelda lore on the channel, I'd like to start by taking a shot at piecing together Null's story from the beginning of time. And I'd love it if my fellow Zelda theorists would let me know what they think about my thoughts in the comments below. So please, let me know what you think in the comments below. I spoke at length about this with my good buddy Rand, the Lon historian, in my Discord server, and this is what we came up with regarding Null's timeline. In the beginning, there was chaos. This much we do know according to several sources, such as the Deku Tree's creation story from Ocarina of Time. However, we also know that the universe, though a void, was not devoid of living beings. There were at least 4 that we know of. There were the 3 golden goddesses of creation and Null, the god of chaos. Every now and then, apparently some life forms, possibly early creations of the Golden Trio, would pop up, only to be immediately consumed and snuffed out by Null, who only wished to keep the void. Eventually, the goddesses got annoyed enough and decided to not only create something new, but create something so large and so expansive that it would be able to trap Null inside. And that creation turned out to be, well, creation. Literally, the lands of Hyrule and beyond, as we can tell by the fact that Hyrule is only this big on the otherwise much larger planet. And the skies above, which includes the stars of the universe like the sun and moon and, oh, I don't know, other planets. Turns out this was largely a success, and Null was successfully captured deep within the earth. But according to the word of the goddesses, which I would assume is pretty trustworthy, Null never relented its desire to change everything back into the original state of being a void. And this is why Null created the rifts in order to slowly steal everything back away into chaotic nothingness. In response, the goddesses created the Tris with the sole responsibility of closing said rifts, and this is where I'm actually going to interject a little theory regarding the Zonai. Shocker, I know, but I think it's pretty interesting. As a reminder, we have much reason to believe that the Zonai are beings created, or at least maintained by, light, which is proven to be the source of their powers and technology. Rauru, the Zonai king and bearer of the light of the goddesses, spent much of his days prior to the establishing of the kingdom of Hyrule locating demons and cleansing them with light, which is what the shrines of light are across Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom. The Zonai also famously led expeditions into the huge underground cavities which together formed the depths of Tears of the Kingdom, where we can also witness their attempts to cleanse the areas with light. But at some point, they all mysteriously just vanished from the land, returning to the heavens above, leaving only Rauru and his sister Minoru behind to look after a land of Hyrule that was pretty much nearly completely cleared of monsters. Interestingly, the Tri-Fairies have many similar patterns to the story of the ancient Zonai. They are goddess-sent, which would mean that they come from the heavens above. They are bearers of the light of the goddesses. They seek out places of darkness or rifts and cleanse them with said light, and they return to the heavens once their job is complete. And since we know that supernatural species across the Zelda franchise can absolutely take on multiple forms as time passes, such as the Kokiri turning into the Koroks and then possibly the monkeys or maybe Ordonians, depending on if you believe one of my earlier theories, it's possible that the Zonai are actually an early version of the Tri-Fairies. I think the current physical forms of these supernatural beings also depends on what their current purpose is, and it's possible that in the time of the Zonai, the ancient Hylians were not very advanced. I mean, just look at Bro trying to defend Sonia. What's that pointy stick gonna do against all that? You know what I mean? So it's possible that the Tri-Fairies took on the forms of the Zonai in order to not just cleanse the world of demons, but also to impart technology and knowledge to the ancient Hylians before they returned to the heavens above, which made the early Hylians confuse the Zonai with being gods themselves. And yes, we do see that Tri-Fairies are also willing and able to impart knowledge and technology to humans as well, since right off the bat, Tri gives Zelda the Tri-Rod. And we also see that the Zonai inherited abilities that Link inherits in Tears of the Kingdom, as in Ultra Hand and Ascend, are Tri abilities as well, since we witness Tris manipulate objects in physical space just like the Zonai Ultra Hand, and move through solid objects just like Zonai Ascend, perhaps a characteristic of beings created of light. Now, if this theory were to be believed, it would finally explain both the sudden heavenly appearance and disappearance of the Zonai, as well as their connections to the light of the goddesses. On the flip side though, it also would explain that Null's efforts don't always take the form of rifts like we see in Echoes of Wisdom, which is why we haven't seen them before. It would mean that Null's quote-unquote rifts actually take on many forms of darkness that each attempt to swallow the light in some way, all of which originate from the ultimate big baddie himself, demise of the demon tribe, who came from where again? Oh yeah, a fissure in the earth. And we know for a fact now that Null, an all-powerful void god existing before time, hellbent on destroying the creation of the goddesses, is inside the earth. Like I said though, this is all theoretical, so you are more than welcome to disagree, but the rabbit hole is only just beginning, my friends, which is why I wanted to make this video. So, make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already to stick around for the next topics, such as explaining and linking the Zonai to other mysterious races, such as the Uka. But anyway, back to the facts. Null had been imprisoned within creation since its creation, but eventually decided to capture the Tri-Fairies themselves within rifts, which might have even been why Null decided to create rifts in the first place, with the ability to steal away what was captured, apparently granting Null the ability to create echoes just like the Tris. And the events of the game follow. Null steals away the temples of the goddesses within the rifts, steals Link away, Zelda the Priestess of Legend encounters a single free Tri, and together they restore Hyrule piece by piece, with the final battle happening once Null successfully tricks the Deku Tree into allowing it inside the chamber of the Triforce, Primal Energy, by creating and then possessing an Echo Zelda. After which Null attempts to wish for the destruction of all creation, which results in the Triforce splitting and ultimately Zelda and Link destroying Null before it can manually reform the Triforce and accomplish its ultimate wish. By the end of the game, Null has been defeated, but it's unknown if this is in a permanent way or just temporarily, but I digress. Now that this video has been created, I'm going to use it as the standard of lore that we'll be pointing back to as we go forward with theories, but that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'm very interested in what you're thinking right now at this present point in time. So please, once again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I don't know if you've realized it yet, but we have just entered a new era of Zelda lore, so why not pioneer some new ideas? Also, please consider leaving a like if you enjoyed the video or my efforts into making it, and again, make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already for much more lore to come. You can always unsubscribe later if you change your mind. Huge thanks as always to my Bandit crew who make my day every day, and by the way, if you were wondering where my Zelda streams have gone, they've moved to my second channel, Bandit Joe, where I'll leave a link to below if you'd like to continue watching those. Currently, we're going through Twilight Princess. That's all I've got for this one, so follow me on my socials and I'll see you in the next one. This is Bandit, signing out. Peace!